This crowd, like this country, have decided this issue on racial grounds.
The most that could happen to him is that he has to pay some cash money, but he's still free. He still has his children.
There is justice. I mean, finally, people were willing to listen and to the facts and to make a good judgment.
O.J. Simpson left, now clearly identified by this jury as the killer, ordered to pay $8.5 million, his entire fortune and more, to the parents of Ron Goldman. For Fred Goldman, this was the vindication of everything he's fought for since the not guilty verdict in the criminal trial 15 months ago.
Today's 2.5 years, a little over 2.5 years, and we finally have justice for Ron and Nicole.
There you go. It was on this date 28 years ago, 1997, a civil jury in Santa Monica found O.J. Simpson liable for the deaths of his ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and her friend, Ronald Goldman, even though a jury said he was not guilty. So the $8.5 million was the initial compensatory damage,
right,
which was awarded to Goldman's parents. 6 days later, though, the jury added $25 million in punitive damages to go to Nicole Brown Simpson's estate and to Fred Goldman himself.
And in the civil trial, he couldn't be sent to jail, even though he went to jail later on a whole other thing. But what they did say was you got to pay money. I don't know how much of that money they ever actually recoup from him.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. It'd be fun to find out. Or not fun, but interesting to find out. So there you go. But that whole thing occupied our time for a long time.
No doubt, yes.
Yeah. Anyway, welcome back here to the Gary Sutton Show, where it is 7:36 on a Tuesday morning. And we bring in this morning James Sanders, our lawyer and business blogger, and he's got something today to talk about that a lot of you probably have heard about in the last week or two, but maybe don't know very much about. And we're going to have James break it down for you this morning like nobody else does. It's about DeepSeek and its impact. You've heard about DeepSeek in China and its impact in the United States AI market, artificial intelligence. James, good morning. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Good morning, Gary. Thanks for having me on again.
Yeah, DeepSeek is one of those things that people are saying, yeah, I've heard of that. What the heck is it? We know it has something to do with China, but by the same token, there's a lot more to it than that. And how it's affecting the world, everybody's kind of rattled by the rise of DeepSeek, except NVIDIA. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so about a week ago, it was revealed that DeepSeek came out and was essentially able to do the same thing as a ChatGPT or other AI-driven platforms, but do it with less of the power needs and less of the the high-tech chips that we're being told were required. NVIDIA being one of the, if not the only supplier of those high-end chips, is right in the middle of this because NVIDIA was supplying a lower level chip to DeepSeek, and the speed of which it came out, obviously, if you saw the market last week, it really hit their market caps, in the trillions of dollars across the board, not just with NVIDIA, but it was quite an earth-shattering announcement. The big thing with it is the fact that it's coming out of China, and the question is, where'd the chips come from? How is NVIDIA, because remember, the CEO of NVIDIA, he was noticeably not at the inauguration with Trump. So the question was, how much in bed is he with China versus the U.S.? And by the way, he's the time when he's born. So you got all kinds of stuff playing around here. But I think the broader theme here is the fact that DeepSeek was able to come out with this so quickly. And it was so powerful, shows you the speed of which the development of the AI platforms is happening.
Yeah, the chief executive, a guy named Jensen Huang, was not sitting at the president's side at Capitol like so many other tech moguls who, by the way, were sitting in front of his cabinet nominees. He wasn't even invited, an NVIDIA official said, so he had gone to Beijing. At a gathering there, I was reading in the Wall Street Journal an article you sent me. Huang told customers and employees of his strong commitment to the Chinese market, according to a recording. And that meant that NVIDIA intended to keep selling chips for artificial intelligence in China, holding back their performance to comply with ever tighter curbs imposed by Washington. Take us down inside that a little bit, will you?
Yeah, this goes back to the Biden administration, and Biden was putting restrictions on what kind of technology, specifically chip technology, could be provided to China in particular. And they really put the clamps down right at the end of his presidency. And NVIDIA came up with a lower level chip. It's called the H2O in the article. And what they found was that chip actually performed just as well because they were able to surround it with other technologies to mimic the speed and the power that was needed to perform things like or perform functions that DeepSeek was putting forth to the public. So it was kind of a workaround, which is kind of a mantra of how China operates, or Chinese-based companies.
Well, obviously, you know how President Trump feels about China for the most part, and we've heard that, or about China. So what we have here is, you tell me if I'm wrong on this, you got a country now with this guy, this Jensen Huang's company, DeepSeek, which is able to produce chips. They are lesser quality, but they're getting the same job done that a lot of our chips are. They're selling them in a place where the regulation is not near as bad on that, even though we think of China as being very regulated. And they're undercutting our NVIDIA here. I saw where NVIDIA stock fell 17% in a single day after they came up with this. So what do we do now? I mean, do I hear the word tariff being thrown out there again on this kind of stock to keep using the kinds of chips we have here, even though we know they're more regulated, they're probably more expensive, and you got those being used over there by China, less expensive, produce more, and being able to be used without all the stuff that we have to put them through here. What do we do with that?
Yeah, no, I mean, the chips are already there.
Yes.
There's not a question about that. Do I think that you're going to put tariffs on the table for it? Absolutely. And the tariffs are there. I think this is another bargaining chip that Trump will be discussing with President Xi over in China, related to intellectual property and what the actual usage of these technologies and these and the hardware related to it will be. But at the end of the day, we go back to Trump is trying to level the playing field to a degree, which you saw with Mexico and Canada yesterday, and I think the same thing will be happening with China. And these chips related to AI and the related power and everything else that goes along with it, it's going to be a heavy lift and a heavy negotiation, because that's where the next generation of our technological infrastructure is going, is AI. And we're, it's kind of like the space race back in the 50s and the 60s. This is the AI race right now. And the question is, how quickly can we get ahead of China?
And of course,
DeepSeek was.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
We talk about 3 Mile Island opening, Reactor 1 eventually here, to do what?
Yep.
To produce more energy for these chips to be produced. Is it fair to say, James, that, and we're talking with James Sanders this morning, our business blogger and also lawyer right here in New York, the NVIDIA has kind of had, if not a monopoly, they've pretty much been the only show in town for people to come to. And so here's NVIDIA basically saying, well, the Chinese customers, that's selling to Chinese customers this lesser thing is somehow letting China keep its global lead in AI. And so what they're saying, it's better to have customers pay NVIDIA billions of dollars and remain hooked on their chips, plus the software surrounding them, than to send them searching for a Chinese alternative. Is that kind of where NVIDIA is at with their argument right now?
Yeah, I mean, once you get those chips ingrained into into your platform, it's very difficult to remove them, because they're going to get developed. The platforms are going to get developed around them, and it's not just things like ChatGPT or DeepSeek. I mean, it's all, there's hundreds of different platforms that are sitting out there, and they're all going to be running through data centers, which are going to have these chips in place. And those data centers, NVIDIA's got the lead on it, but, you've got to develop the infrastructure around it. But, at the heart of it, you're still going to need power.
Right.
And that's where, places, even here in York County, York and Lancaster and Dauphin County, because we have the power infrastructure, I think we're in a good spot, a sweet spot to develop these data centers. The question is, are we putting NVIDIA chips in there or something else? Time will tell.
Yeah, we talked about NVIDIA the last few years and the value. They valued at around $3 trillion. I mean, thanks to the dominance in the AI chips. But they're now battling to keep doing as much business as possible in China. I saw each time the United States increased restrictions on what it could sell, NVIDIA rushed to design new chips that satisfied the rules but offered a competitive product. And obviously, it frustrated our national security officials in Washington trying to regulate them because they didn't want them doing business in China, right?
Yeah, no question. Because it's not just civil applications. Think about the governmental and ultimately military applications that are going to come about here. To be able to, or to have that accessible to the Chinese government, which I think it is already, really puts us at a. I wouldn't say a disadvantage as of yet, but it certainly puts us on our heels to a degree if this kind of platform like a DeepSeek is coming out of the middle of China.
Now, this guy, Huang, has met, who's the head of the NVIDIA CEO, has met Trump actually, Huang, who's the head of DeepSeek, and then the NVIDIA CEO, met Trump last Friday at the White House, and people who are familiar with the discussion said that the two meeting for the first time, this Wang guy, talked about AI policy. One person said the subject of DeepSeek came up and that Wang told the president that the public was overreacting. Do you think the public is overreacting to this whole thing?
Yeah, I think there was a bit of an overreaction because you've seen, some of the stocks recover to a degree. So yes, I think not the public. I think the media is overreacting, which spins up the public to a degree. I think in general, what you're hearing now is it's a positive move having DeepSeek come out because, again, it's showing the speed of the development and the fact that you don't need as much in terms of power to get this thing up and running. But at the end of the day, we still have to protect our national interests and ultimately, hope this doesn't float into the military realm and then they go leaps and bounds in front of us.
It was interesting what Ned Finkel, NVIDIA's vice president of governmental affairs, said, and maybe we end with this. He said, America wins through innovation, competition, and by sharing our technologies with the world, not by retreating behind a wall of government overreach. Final thought.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I think that's ultimately what Trump's doing here is he's trying to level the playing field to a degree. I think the walls are up more internationally than they are domestically. And by threatening with tariffs and by putting our buying power on the table, saying we're going to pull back on this, is really getting countries to rethink what they're doing in terms of trade and the chip aspect and AI is a biggie. And
AI,
and time will tell. Yep.
AI in the news every day. James, really appreciate you bringing this up this week. I know it gets a little bit into the weeds, but it's important stuff because it affects our lives. We're looking forward to talking to you again next week, my friend, and seeing what you come across. That'll be so interesting to talk about again. Thank you, my friend. Have a great week.
All right, Jay. You too. Bye-bye.
James Sanders here, our business blogger on WOYK. We take a break. When we come back, more news under the radar. You're welcome to comment on anything throughout the show here by texting us, and we'll get back to you pretty quickly. 833-478-4729. You can also let us know if you want a Capital Region area golf cart and be in the running for that as we pull one name at the end of the show later on today. This is the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK.